All right, everyone, we've got another funny moment from the left. Obama weighing in. Now, Obama, to his credit, actually, of former presidents, is relatively on the quiet side. Like the Clintons weigh in on everything, and certainly Joe Biden likes to weigh in once in a while, but Obama, I think he had enough of it for the most part. But they trot him out once in a while just because, hey, he's much more popular than the last Democrat that was in office, so shines by comparison, I suppose. More people are willing to listen to him, so to speak. Link in the description, archived, of course. Obama is saying that Trump's comments with regards to Tylenol, aka acetaminophen, are basically it's violence against the truth. You're telling people lies. You're going to get people hurt. This is exactly the same, by the way. I wonder if any of you remember this as the time during the COVID spedemic, we'll call it, when they said that Trump was telling people to drink bleach. And then that led to the whole thing online where they would ban you for even mentioning therapeutic treatments that were experimental. This is actual science, though. This is not in contention. Science is you're testing, and then you test again, and then you test again. You do studies, you label your cohorts, you try to, gather evidence. You try to gather evidence of what's going on, how this drug interacts with a certain organ, how this new surgical technique works compared to the old one, whether this compound is safe, things like that. A lot of the Tylenol studies probably funded by companies that were producing the actual product. So old school studies, the ones that were used to declare this safe for pregnant women, Tylenol in this particular case, acetaminophen. There's generic acetaminophen available. The Dutch joke about how that's their healthcare system. Their healthcare system is acetaminophen, basically. Paracetamol, they call it. I don't know if that's a brand or a slightly different drug, but it basically answers the same function regardless. Science is when you go back and you say, maybe this study conducted 50 years ago with outdated equipment and outdated methodologies, maybe it doesn't hold up to modern scrutiny. We're going to retest this. There is, it seems, possibly, we aren't sure, but possibly a causal link between the use of acetaminophen during pregnancy and certain folium deficiency. That's unimpeachable. We already know about that. Folic acid has been prescribed for that for a long time for various reasons. Folium deficiency can be a problem. We need to discover whether there is a causal link. Now, it could be that in the end, they don't find any link. Modern technology and testing and so forth, testing standards, decides that there's no actual link between these two things. No harm, no foul. You conducted a study, and in the end, everything's hunky-dory. But if they do find a causal link, then that would justify effectively what the advice is from the Trump administration and from RFK Jr. saying, you need to be cautious using this if you happen to be pregnant. You just need to be cautious. Now, what is Tylenol typically given for? It's an over-the-counter medication. You don't need a prescription for it. Headaches and shit like that. Mild pain. I don't think that it's going to cause harm and death for somebody to simply suck it up buttercup and say, well, I've got a headache, but I'm pregnant. Well, instead of taking the Tylenol, maybe I'll just have a nice glass of tea. By the way, we are clanking along with some Yunnan Jing, by the way, from jamandbean.com. Mm, it's got caffeine in it. Therefore, this is my morning tea when possible. Should have had like 10 pounds of it or something like that. I'd probably drink it all in a week. But anyway, this is science. This is a lot like when the Uniparty declared that the concept of, for instance, UV cleansing was unsafe, or that it was, pseudoscience, it's conspiracy theory, it's medical disinformation. Or again, the drinking bleach thing. Trump never told people to drink bleach. He said that there were things that could be injected into the body in order to clean out bacteria. Interferon exists, I do believe. Not that it was, I believe, used for COVID or anything like that. But the concept is there. And the experimental technology about effectively irradiating blood actually probably has legs. This happens all the time. Studies from the 70s showing that coffee caused heart attacks and strokes. No, it doesn't cause heart attacks and strokes. Actually, coffee and tea and caffeinated things like that appear to be vasoprotective more than anything else. What they didn't do in that earlier study is fix for smoking. Because at the time, oh, smoking's fine. Your doctor probably smokes Marlboros. Well, you know what? My doctor's better. He smokes Camels. It's got the T-zone shit. Haha, fuck you two. Mine smokes Winston's. That was basically the culture back then. Coffee was heavily correlated with smoking. And that was what was causing the problem. But the tobacco companies were leaning on the researchers, basically. So they never pointed that particular part out. Mm. Nutritional science is definitely the most guilty of this, though. Fad dieting and all of these other things. Thalidomide was safe before it wasn't. Eggs were the devil. Now eggs are a savior. They're also very expensive. Butter used to be, hey, use this margarine full of trans fats, but, they're softer at room temperature, so just trust us. It's safe, you dumb fucks. Turns out that was a bad idea. It actually destroys your gut health and can cause all sorts of other health issues, and butter is perfectly healthy. Salt used to cause high blood pressure. Now we know in normal amounts doesn't really affect it. If anything, maybe high blood pressure causes a craving for salt or something like that. You put the cart before the horse sometimes. This happens over and over and over again. Studies get completely outdated, outmoded. And so we have to revisit, our understanding of these particular situations. And any time that the government or pharmaceutical corporations or something are trying to dissuade research into something that could be a relatively major issue, autism potentially linked to the use of a certain drug that isn't even particularly important for your day-to-day health anyway, then that's usually a bad sign. It means that there's probably money involved. This is probably the pharmaceutical companies leaned on their kept senators and so forth, and Obama apparently as well, to try to tell the public, oh, this is terrible. Not one person is going to die because they didn't take fucking Tylenol. Not one person. But we might be able to spare people from autism because those old studies, we don't know if they're still adequate. We don't know if there were pressure campaigns going on. Look at the FDA for a great example, the food pyramid. I was told I should eat an entire loaf of Wonder Bread when I was a kid. They no longer recommend this. I wonder why. Could it be because it makes absolutely no sense? Yeah, stuff yourself with empty calories, but don't worry, we vitamin and mineral fortify our bread, so it'll keep you alive more or less. Probably get diabetes by the time you're 40, but, it's all good. They want people to be sick in some cases too. The concept of medical disinformation at this point has become a farce. What Trump and RFK Jr. are doing here is simply saying, Tylenol's perfectly safe. It's going to remain available. They're clearly not going to ban acetaminophen. That would be asinine. We're just warning you that there are some studies that don't correlate with the prior data. And many of them are newer studies with better technology and maybe better cohorts. So let's look at the situation. Simply asking questions has become verboten in the uniparty, it seems. You're not even allowed to ask whether the medical orthodoxy could ever possibly be wrong, even though all of its recent guidance has been wrong, from dietary science to epidemiology to surgical procedures, anything. Believe it or not, doctors make mistakes. How pharmaceutical agencies, they make way more of them. I would rather have people like RFK Jr. that appear to actually understand the basis of medicine to be calling the shots. Nobody's trying to ban your fucking Tylenol, Obama. Nobody's trying to prevent you from taking a couple Tylenol to alleviate a headache or anything like that. Then you've got the predictable, which again, and any meme that you can make about leftoids eventually becomes true. Because although it's only a small number of people doing this, let's admit there's no mass outbreak of women who are pregnant chugging Tylenol. There are some of them actually doing that. They are not joking. They're actually that crazy. If anything, I would think that the backlash against simply proposing, hey, we need to look more into Tylenol and its safety during pregnancy, that's not going to kill anyone. But if pregnant women are scarfing down 8 or 9 Tylenols at a time, they could hurt themselves. If anything, the leftist backlash is probably what's going to account for casualties, if there are any. We're hoping not, but of course, I mean, some of those babies would have been aborted anyway, but, That's the real problem. Obama's just lost in the woods at this point. He shouldn't have weighed in on it. It's not violence against truth because you don't know what the truth is. It's the whole fucking point. You don't know whether it's safe during pregnancy. It's like relying on a study from the 1930s to tell you, oh yeah, the cocaine is perfectly fine for your kids. Liquid cocaine is great for teething. Yeah, you feel bad? Use some heroin. Dude, these were all accepted by then modern medicine. This is not even 100 years ago. Some of the drugs that were used, even when I was a kid, are no longer on the market. The dietary advice is totally different. And everything else. They keep switching rapidly based on new studies. What diet should you follow? How much exercise is good? Which kind of exercise is good? What should you do if you accidentally put three staples into your skull? It doesn't matter. Medicine is an ever-changing sort of thing, changing with our increased, preferably, understanding of the world. The problem is a lot of those studies and a lot of that research is marred by people who are simply trying to make money. There's a lot of monopolization. You've got the patent law issue with drugs, um, reimportation. You've got medicine has more issues than almost any other aspect of society at this point, other than maybe the function of the military. Well, Congress is number one, but yeah, that doesn't count. That's government. That's always going to be screwed up. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't use scientific research to improve Congress. It's an impossible task. It's a rotten barrel. It's not just rotten apples in the barrel. It tends to corrupt everything around it. And so yeah, now you're gonna have I guess we've got the Tylenol babies. It's the new crack baby. That's about all. Pete's out.